The Secrets of Star Wars is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
Hello there. Obi-Wan Kenobi here, also known as James Arnold Taylor, the voice of Obi-Wan, Jedi Master Plo Koon, and many other characters in the world of Star Wars. You're listening to... Shh, don't tell. It's The Secrets of Star Wars. May the Force be with you.
You're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars, episode 143.
Hello there.
It's a power that Jedi have that lets them control people and make things float.
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
It's against my programming to impersonate a deity.
That's not how the Force works.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force, and I fear nothing.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Hello there, everyone. I'm Mike Creavey, a.k.a. Old Ben, and you're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars, where we talk about everything connected to that galaxy far, far away, including the deeper themes and meanings. Please be sure to share this podcast on Twitter and Facebook, and let us know how we're doing by leaving us a review. The Bad Batch is back. I was going to tap my desk like the Terminator, thing, he's back, but they're all back. The Bad Batch is back. Wednesday, January 4th, 2023 brought us the official premiere of the Bad Batch Season 2, which we've been anticipating for quite some time. So we're back in the saddle, as it were, with our fan favorite defective Clone Force 99, our favorites Hunter, Wrecker, Tech, Echo, Omega, and though Crosshair isn't on the scene yet, he's no doubt just around the corner. So we're going to unpack this 2-episode premiere, episodes 201 and 202 as they're coded here. And with me to do that is, first up, Kathryn Laffrey. How are you doing, Kathryn?
Good.
Oh, glad to have you. And also, this is now my first time with both of these gentlemen. Ryan Nafziger, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing well.
Good. This is exciting. And Chris Hagen, lastly, joining us here today. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Ready to talk Star Wars.
Yeah, and a special welcome to you. It's your first time on the show, I understand. So glad to have you. It's funny, we've had this growing of our show's family this year, and it's just been really exciting to get to know everybody a little bit better, and looking forward to a lot more Star Wars to come this year. So one thing I wish we had done was, in retrospect, like a things we're looking forward to in 2023 with Star Wars show, but I mean, we're already doing it sort of, or it's already here, so it'll unpack. But maybe I'll just ask you guys that, is there a particular show for 2023 you're most excited for? If it's this one, that's fine. So
this one was a close second for me. It's Ahsoka for me.
Oh, okay.
Ahsoka.
Yeah. Same for you, Kathryn?
Oh yes, definitely Ahsoka.
Yeah. That one seems like that's, I don't want to say get my hopes up. It's going to be great no matter what. I always enjoy, but I feel like that's the one that they're really teasing as this really big crossover for all kinds of different, eras and everything. So that's going to be fun. And I haven't seen an official release date for that yet. I've seen a lot of speculation that that's going to be like the fall one, or I don't know. We'll see. But for now, of course, we're here to talk Bad Batch, and I thought I'd just ask you guys before we get into the synopses, which I think I'm just going to do, if you're all right with it. I thought we could just do a really brief sort of synopsis for the first episode, then kind of unpack it, and then do the second one like that too. But just first impressions coming in, as far as what you guys were hoping for, or how you've enjoyed the first season of Bad Batch, and sort of getting ready for this one. What are you thinking about going into this?
Well, for me, I was hoping the season premiere would start out with some juicy cameos, a little bit more of the mystery of what's going on with the cloning and such. So it didn't provide that. It was, for me, what felt like just a very good but basic Bad Batch mission story.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Kathryn? Any thoughts?
I was loving seeing the upped intensity and color.
Oh, yeah.
It's getting a little more lively.
Yeah.
I remember looking at all their uniforms going, was it really that color in the first season?
Right.
Everything was just more vibrant. So made it more exciting.
Yeah, sure. How about you, Ryan?
The first thing that I realized, besides the colors, I'm not sure why, I get the impression that they're slowly having to re-kit their uniforms as things fall apart. But the first impression I got was Omega is growing up and she is becoming a much more active and important member of the crew. I mean, she was swinging around all over the place and really, she doesn't have those noodle arms that Sid talked about first season. She can shoot now, which is fun to see.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say that like that very first opening mission pretty much was saved just kind of by her entirely, like right out the gate. So, were you guys surprised that was the very first scene? I kind of wasn't myself. Just that seems to be how they do it with those promos. You know, they don't want to give too much away.
I kind of liked it because it means that they didn't give anything away, really. I mean, there's only a few other scenes besides that entire sequence that they've even shown, which is great.
Right.
I agree.
Right. Yeah, and that's something that's, I think, been very well done with especially Bad Batch, because like there were things season 1, like they showed like you saw a quick clip of Fennec Shand, you know, which was cool, and you're like, oh, she's in there, but you don't know how she's going to fit in, and you know, well, I'll tell you, let me do the quick little breakdown here, just a real rough sketch synopsis. I was telling everyone, for our listeners, before we started, I had some hiccups with our 2.5-year-old Renata. She was, let's just say, not very inclined to participate this evening in it's in bedtime, so I didn't get to some of my last minute polishing of my prep as much as I like to. But the basic breakdown for this episode 1 of season 2, Spoils of War, followed by episode 2, Ruins of War, which we'll get to in a moment, is that we catch up with the batch. I didn't see any real clear indication of how much time has passed here, but I feel like it's a few months. Like it doesn't seem like it's a year quite. They're definitely they have some missions under their belt. They have been at this for a while. Omega's basically being homeschooled by Tech, which is kind of pretty awesome. And they're of course on this mission on the beach that we saw in the trailer, like we were just talking about, being chased by giant crabs, which is pretty terrifying. But they pull off this narrow escape and they go back and they get another mission from Sid. And this is where we get her kind of indicating that the path that they've been on isn't going to get them where they ultimately need to be. And this is something I really want to get into with you guys more and see your thoughts on this. I think a lot of people are talking about, like, what are we going to do? Goes back to kind of what you were saying too earlier, Chris, like, what are we going to do to get beyond, as much as we love the sort of week to week adventure? How do we sort of expand this to where they really are able to be on their way to something different, or maybe find a deeper mission. But they find out that they have this opportunity to get their hands on some of Count Dooku's war chest by going back to the home planet of Count Dooku, which is pretty chilling. Back to Sereno, seeing his I don't know if it's office, his lair maybe is a better word. But of course they go there. Trouble ensues, and it's really pretty intense. There's some good twists and turns throughout it, but kind of like Chris had said earlier, not a whole lot of totally uncharted territory. It was just it seemed like a fun kind of Bad Batch getting into a tight spot, and are they going to be able to get out of it, kind of cliffhanger ending. So that's just the real rough sketch overview. So anything you guys want to jump in here on as far as the mission itself, or perhaps Wanda Sykes' mysterious pirate character that we didn't get a whole lot of detail on? I can't remember her name either. I have to look it up here now. Maybe one of you guys has it. I don't know.
No, I kept looking for that one. Couldn't find it.
I'll find it here somewhere. Yeah.
But jumping back to the crab chase. Oh my goodness. First of all, to me, Omega seems at least a year older.
Yeah.
She reminds me of like my favorite age group to teach and coach, and that's like that 7th, 8th grade age group.
Yeah.
Where the girls just start to change a little drastically and get a little older, a little stronger, a little faster.
She's the
but
tweener
I loved
kinda.
how you could, yeah. And I loved how you could see her planning ahead, strategizing what she was going to do, because as soon as she saw how the crabs duck and cover her shot. She ended up using that later as a ramp to get out of the way. And it was just like, that was just awesome. I loved seeing her do that. And then, of course, she's fishing, which made me throw back to the old clones later on in Rebels when they're fishing for, what is it, chupa or whatever?
Yes.
It just felt like, oh, all clones like to fish.
That makes sense. How about you guys?
Well, I noticed that the crab armor seemed to be able to withstand blaster shots, and I was thinking, why hasn't the Empire harvested these crab and put all that armor in there? Stormtrooper armor, it would seem to be more effective.
I hadn't thought of that. It's a good idea.
Yeah, Carapace clone armor would be pretty cool looking.
Well, it makes you wonder if this was I don't know if we caught what planet it is, but it reminds me of Scarif. You know, and I'm like, did they have to, clear crabs like that out later on or something? Or is it a similar environment? It makes you wonder.
I wonder if they're a nod off to the big crab-like crustaceans in the Dark Crystal.
Oh, right. I totally forgot about. Has SQPN done a Secrets of the Dark Crystal yet? Because they totally
yes, we
should.
recorded it already.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I missed the boat on that one. That is I think wasn't that like a Jim Henson type thing? The Creature Shop, I think, did a lot of that stuff. Yeah.
Yep, that was all Jim Henson. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I don't know what it is, like, any of the sort of old guard on Secrets of Star Wars hearing this episode will just laugh, because I've mentioned before, I'm not like a spider guy. Crabs, for some reason, I'm more okay with them. I don't know why, but at some point it does get kind of creepy. Like, there's a lot of action, all those legs gone. So, my goodness. But, so they get out of here. They just narrowly escape it. I like Tech's line about, they're like, what does he say? Like, Hunter's like, why is Omega hanging from the ship? And he's like, it's an unscheduled study break. Just casually throwing that out there. But what do you guys, do you have any, I don't know if you have any guesses. I mean, they didn't give us a lot, but her name, by the way, it's Fee Genoa. Fee Genoa, like the Genoa salami, I guess. Which I did buy, but I didn't. They're right. I didn't put a name in. I just grabbed it off the shelf this time around, so I didn't have fun with it. But do you guys, I mean, she's clearly an acquaintance of Sid's. Sid has all kinds of contacts, as we know. I keep waiting for Hondo to show up at some point. Mm-hmm. But what do you guys think about her? Do you have any thoughts on her? Any guesses yet, or not enough information?
Well, Wanda Sykes was the only voice that could deliver the line quality control.
Yes.
It's just awesome. As soon as I heard it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's Wanda Sykes. She was perfect for that. I love the way she's calling them all out, and this time Tex in the hot seat there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the first thing I thought of was she looked very similar aesthetically to the last time we saw Saw Gerrera in Bad Batch Season 1, but I know that that's not possible, right? She couldn't be Saw's sister, because she died in Clone Wars.
You're gonna bring in another relative or something, maybe. I don't know. The design's very similar.
Yes, the second cousin of Saw Gerrera.
Yeah, I can't. What was Steela? I think was her name. The sister.
Yes,
Saw's sister.
Steela. I think.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, because I'm gonna look it up now too. But yeah, I don't know.
One commentary on the episode I read pointing out that the first shot we see of her, she's got her boots up on Sid's desk.
Yeah.
Kind of showing who's boss right away. And we haven't seen Sid in a subservient position yet in her enterprise.
Right. Certainly not in her own office.
Yeah, the last time that happened, it kind of didn't end well for the guy who tried it.
Right. Yeah, what was that guy's name? That Deveronian. I can't remember anybody's names tonight,
but something Durant.
Roland? It was Roland
Durant
or something like that. Yeah. So he lost his horn, or one of them. So, but yeah, it's interesting. I saw her we saw her in the trailer, I think, or there was somewhere along the line I heard that she was going to be in here. But like, if you look her up on Wikipedia, of course, right as of now, it just says she's a female human pirate and associate of Sid. So, you know how Wikipedia is. They fill it in as we go, you know. So, but yeah, this is interesting. And I wanted to kind of through this get into this thing that then Echo brings up on the ship too. It's this, you know, we see a little bit of, first of all, you know, Hunter, of course, says, no, it's too dangerous. And then we see, lo and behold, his team is taking votes now. Right. So little anarchy here. But what do you guys, you know, I really want to kind of, you know, get your thoughts on this broader mission, or this broader sort of not mission, but well, I guess, yeah, their mission, their place in the galaxy. And maybe, I don't know, any thoughts, you know, on where you kind of want to see it go or hope it goes, you know, what you think would be the right course for them to take, you know, just thought we could chat about that for a little bit. Because that's clearly going to be coming up more through this show.
It's interesting how they seem a lot like 3 men and a little lady, although it's 4. And so there's that family vibe you get from them, which is a nice little Star Wars theme. But seeing them kind of going behind Dad's back and voting against Hunter on that was an interesting family dynamic to kind of play in there.
Yeah.
There seems to be a shift from season 1 where we're a thrown together family and we're just trying to survive. And right off the bat here at season 2, Sid is pointing out to them, you know, this is not going to work to just keep doing these jobs and just making enough to get by. You've got a future to think about now. And so now they're a family that has Omega as sort of the child that needs to have a future.
Right.
And so maybe season 2 is shifting towards what's that future going to look like?
Yeah, so for context, when I watched Bad Batch season 2, I watched it with my sister, who is a massive Star Wars fan. She actually learned the Star Wars script. And
oh, nice.
Yeah, to read it, which I was like, whoa. I mean,
she could be our official show Arabesh translator or something if we need to figure stuff out.
Yeah. The lore master. Anyways, but when I was talking about it with her, she said, "Yeah, I don't really want to see the Bad Batch meet up with any of our known rebel conspirators in the galaxy other than Rex." And I was thinking about that, and I was like, "Yeah, it would be a bit weird if the Bad Batch ended up just turning into, you know, Rebel Cell 99 or something like that."
Right.
So I'm not sure if they're going to go that direction, but I don't think it would work necessarily. I'm not sure.
And it was Echo, right, who was talking about wanting to, you know, fight. We need to do something. Yeah. That was Echo, right?
Yeah, because Omega was up in her room, so she overheard it because he was saying, if I remember correctly, he said it's because of Omega that we're in this life, which he didn't so much mean as I think she took it as an insult or she's a burden, and that's not, as he says later, I think in the next episode, right? You know, it's the right choice. You know, it's not that he's saying that, but he's kind of by extension, I think, seeing this bigger picture and saying like we have to do more. There's other people who need us besides her as well. So yeah, I think it seems like the biggest difference seems to be between him and Hunter. At least that's my take on it. You know, I don't know about Wrecker and Tech yet. I mean, well, they were voting against Hunter here, so they seem to be siding more with Echo. But
you can tell Hunter is definitely trying to shelter and protect Omega.
Yeah.
Where Tech is trying to teach her everything she needs to know just in case. And,
right.
You know, and so is Echo trying to make sure she's ready to defend and fight in case they need to. I feel like Hunter would be happy to find a little quiet place somewhere that no one's going to find and just lay low.
Yeah, and it just really makes it like from a perspective of vocation here, like it's really interesting too. Like the vocational discernment of Clone Force 99, I think is going to be a recurring theme here for us on our, you know, our Catholic Star Wars show. But I do wonder, because I've written down a couple places, different things like this that keep coming up. Like what does freedom look like for them? You know, and like you just said, Kathryn, is it the lay low and hide and, you know, not be killed, or that difference between surviving and thriving? And yeah, it's a dynamic I'm interested to see.
Interested to see how Rex plays into that as well, because we definitely know he's gonna give them something to do.
And I do I'm one of those people that wants there to be some kind of, Grogu crossover without it like dominating the show, so that was one of my, I don't know, I hesitate to, I don't want to go down this road too far, but with Andor, which I did thoroughly enjoy, I was just telling my wife the other day, I said, there's just something about, like, all Star Wars, even Star Wars that I don't really care for that much, or particular movies or shows or whatever that are like not my favorite, I always come away delighted. There's always like a sense of delight, and I never felt that once personally, because Andor wasn't meant to be that. Like, it's not the kind of show that really generated that. So that felt just kind of, I don't know that I was disappointed. It was different, and I was kind of missing that. So like I'm happy to have that back in a sense with this, and so that's where I personally look forward to, those crossovers. I'm someone who doesn't mind fan service, quote unquote. But by the same token, like I am, like I said, very curious to see where they're gonna go with developing this more beyond just the kind of mission per week thing that they've been doing. But with that in mind, what do you guys think of the return to Sereno? Were you expecting to go back to Count Dooku's old stomping grounds?
I'm surprised that all the clones we saw were basically just on manual labor duty.
Right.
Just moving stuff around.
Well, who else was gonna...
Right. Yeah.
There was a lot to collect.
Apparently.
Yeah, evidently.
Yeah, if you think this is 2-3 years after he's dead, and they're just now finishing collecting everything, that was a lot of loot.
Yeah, the last of it to go. That's maybe why some of those containers are actually, there's like a lot of space in them apparently still. They can walk around, and but it was interesting too to see this guy that we'll see a little bit more, this clone trooper, was it Wilco, like Captain or Commander Wilco? Now was he, I didn't get a chance to go back and check on him, was he previously seen before, like in Clone Wars or anything?
No, this is his first appearance.
It didn't ring a bell. Okay. And ostensibly his last. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen episode 2 of season 2 of Bad Batch, why are you listening to this show? We'll get there, but yeah, so the batch of course has, as usual, this perfect plan that should work, and then lo and behold they get locked in the container while Wrecker and Hunter are out. Tech and Echo and Omega get locked in the container. It starts going out. And how about Omega's schooling coming back right away to give her that information about the boosters that's
Clearly this was all just an elaborate test by Tech, to
right.
make sure she knew.
Yeah, he pulled it off quite well. I was a little annoyed that, it's funny, like I'm one of those guys where like they're escaping through the container ship with, they still have that chest of loot and everything, and then that one turn comes where they're pinned down and they have to leave it behind, and I'm always like, come on, like keep pulling the thing, but no, they leave it behind.
I had hope because then they went into the container, as they jettisoned them all. So I thought, okay, well, they have a lot more containers now. But even so, that didn't end up.
They did drop the spice that one time, so they do have a history of dropping important containers.
Yeah, this is not the first time that this has gone south for them. But I just feel bad for Wrecker, that like no matter what happens or where they end up, he always has to be dealing with his fear of heights. Like time, and for some reason it's like it never gets old because it always is, like it fits, but I genuinely feel sorry for him with how routinely that comes up.
I love as the ship's getting higher, this isn't good.
Yeah. But then they get it. I love the little bit like when they're in Dooku's lair there, and like just I love their interaction, and we keep saying this over and over again. Like I just can't believe D. Bradley Baker's talent to be able to be just to be all of these guys, and recording all of this, and it just works so well. But I love when like Hunter's desperately trying to like figure the controls out for the lift, and he's just like, Wrecker's criticizing me. He's like, it's usually Tech doing this. Like, give me a break. I'm not the guy who's supposed to be doing this. So, and of course, Wrecker's solution, as always, is, just smash it. He's, like the Hulk smash. So that was fun.
I have to confess, when they were in Dooku's throne room, I was scouring the walls and the floor for lightsaber marks from the last time that there was a fight in there. I was like, man, are they gonna put him in? I didn't see any, but I was gonna just be over the moon if I saw a lightsaber mark here or there.
I mean, you'd think. I mean, he's got a. I don't know. Maybe the cleanup crew came through early and took them all out. I don't know.
Cleaning service must be amazing. There were several fights in there too.
Right. No trace of it whatsoever. But this is like we were saying earlier. Like there's now, of course, you have back to Omega and Echo and Tech hurtling down into the forest for those waiting for the rocket boosters to kick in, which of course don't yet. And then we get basically to the credits, and that's there's more in this episode, of course, but I think back to again, look what Chris was saying earlier, it's fun, but there's there wasn't any huge reveal. There wasn't a giant like what's going on with Nala Se and the whole cloning thing. Yeah, right. It's like, no, it's kind of a Bad Batch mission, and Omega's more established kind of in her her skills, but she has this tension. So it seems like it was setting that up, and I definitely was happy they released it with this second episode, because I felt like it. I don't know if it would have been a letdown, but I think the second episode really was needed to kind of carry it through. So the quick summary of course, the second episode, we pick back up with them in the middle of this mission. They land successfully on the edge of a cliff in this container of Dooku's loot. I love, was it Echo who says, he pops out and looks and he's like, we still haven't landed. They're hanging off the cliff there down to the tree and stuff, stuck there. It reminded me a little bit of Jurassic Park, with the Land Rover down in the tree sort of stuck thing. So you have that little tension, of course, still there. But really, I think this episode really seemed to revolve around, of course, the three of them. Tech, of course, being wounded. Him in his very Egon Spengler style rational sort of description of his broken femur was pretty funny. But they link up with this guy. I have his name here. Romer Adel. I was kind of waiting to find out he was like a Dooku relative. Looked kind of like him, but he's this local, of course, who ends up helping them out. And then we get a little more lore here about Dooku's rise to power. We can get into that in a minute. But then you have Hunter and Wrecker continuing their escape, being pursued by Wilco and the other troopers. Some pretty cool, on sort of on the spot thinking. Wrecker has he's teased for not being the brightest bulb, but that was a pretty awesome discovery he made, finding the making a cannon portable for him to be able to carry around. That's a cool thing. Totally an action figure promo for sure. And of course, they eventually make it back to the ship after a lot of close calls. We have this great sidebar going on with Omega and Echo, right? Trying to connect a little bit more. Echo's trying to, protect her, and she's still wanting to make up in her mind for this, putting them on this path. And she's very determined to go get this treasure. And Echo's telling her just, let it go, or we'll have to get to safety first, this kind of thing. She, of course, goes out on her own, attempts to get it. He goes after her. We have some fighting that ensues, of course, in there. But a good, I think, wrap up with at the end of the episode with Echo and Omega, of him getting her to let go, right? Like very Indiana Jones and Sean Connery kind of. You guys think of that too, reaching for the chalice, right? And then of course they gather together, they escape. Romar stays there on Sereno with he mentions other survivors we don't see, but that's basically where we leave off. I'm gonna hold off on that last scene maybe till the end with Rampart, because that was pretty cool. But maybe jumping back with some of that, anything you guys wanted to dig into with any of those things, or something else, some of those other themes from the plot for this episode?
Well, another great actor giving an awesome voice with Hector, is it Elizondo?
Elizondo, yeah. He's one of those guys that he
I love
sounds
his
so
voice.
familiar, and it's like, who is it? Yeah.
Yeah, and he had just enough change to his voice that you had to go, wait, is that really him? And then, just like perfect for that character. I loved him in so many movies he's done, especially I have 3 daughters, so big time into Princess Diaries.
I knew you were going to, that's my wife's favorite
so
one
it's
with
just,
him.
Hearing his voice, especially when he's talking to Omega, giving her the toy. It's a toy. And then all of a sudden you had like Geppetto vibe from him, and it was kind of cool.
Did that remind you guys, by the way, a little bit of just, sometimes we forget, I think, with the Batch, that she's still this kid who's never had a childhood, and then like when she's playing ball with the kids on Seleucum, I think like the 2nd or 3rd episode of season 1, and she like doesn't know how to play, it's so tragic.
And the toy he gave her meant a lot to me as a kid, because I had my godfather was a stained glass artist, and he had made me a kaleidoscope with an old carousel horse pipe and stained glass wheels at the end of it. So it's kind of like, that made me think of my childhood.
Awesome. How about you guys? Anything in those themes or other themes?
So what I noticed with Romar, he was adamant that this war chest, these spoils, I'm not interested in these. And it wasn't until my second watch through that what he was interested in was he brought out this storage device to hold their culture. And what was important to him to recover was his culture. And that put me in mind of John Paul II's emphasis on the importance of culture and his choice to resist Nazi occupation through cultural avenues.
Right. Which got him a lot of criticism sometimes from, I think, some of his friends or other people who were like, well, we should be out there, getting rifles and joining the army or whatever. And his point being that that's not the only path,
It's reminded of Hera with her, oh my goodness, I don't know what it's called. I'm sorry. Can't remember her family totem.
Yes. Yeah.
The Kalikori.
Yes, the Kalikori. Thank you. That she had to recover and then recover again from Thrawn in Rebels, because it was something that I kind of realized that, we see all of these planets in Star Wars and we'll usually only see them for a few hours of screen time, and sometimes only as theaters for a battle. But then you have all of these native people who live there, and oh my gosh, remind me of his name. In
this show,
Romar. Thank you. Romar didn't even think of himself as a separatist because he wasn't. He just lived there. It's a bit like, I doubt that all the Twi'leks on Ryloth think of themselves as freedom fighters. They just live there.
Right.
And I think that was just an interesting thing because, in a way, when I watched it, I was like, who's he gonna be? Who's he gonna be associated with in the grand scheme of Star Wars? And it's like, no, he's just a guy. He's just a regular person who has a treasure he's protecting.
Seeing the realization in tech of there was lives and people before the Separatist. This is all before Tech's life. He didn't exist before the Separatists.
Right, these guys are
so
like 10 years old.
So it was like one of those things where it's like, wait, there's a whole world out there before war.
Yeah.
It's a bit of homeschooling for Tech.
Right. Yeah, I forget the line. He said something like, we did exist before the war. And he's like, I never thought of it that way. And it's fascinating because you see the same, we talked about, I was talking about this, I forget if it was let me just check. I think it was the Andor. No, it was when we did the episode a couple weeks ago. Jason and I were talking about New Year's resolutions, like Star Wars character New Year's resolutions. We talked about Saw, quite a bit, and it's just interesting to look at this, the different journeys that people make, when they've been through some, traumatic experience or certainly in a warfare environment where, it's so personal, and this is, these guys have had, friends die in these conflicts, and then it's so easy to just sympathize in a sense, or to understand this separatists, and we saw that in the first season a little bit when they went back to I can't remember any names of any places tonight. It's been a long week. Goodness gracious. The capital for the separatists starts with an R. Goodness gracious.
Raxus Prime?
Raxus, yeah. That's it. Goodness gracious. Yeah. All the listeners right now are like, get this guy off the microphone. It's Rax. They're yelling. This is why we don't do this live, folks. No, or at least we do it once a year live. No, yeah. So when that episode where they go and meet up with the senator, and there's all these, especially with Echo, I felt like there were these moments of, maybe because he had been a reg, I don't know, but just that attitude, like, what do we do now with the fact that, like, the army we fought for is now something completely different that's after us, and then there's these guys who were the bad guys, but, like, they were completely manipulated. It turns out that it was all the guy that was running our side in the first place that made the war, or how much of that they even really know. So yeah, I think that's a neat theme to keep bringing back. How do you journey through this, and potentially become new allies?
A good juxtaposition between the two treasures as well. Where the biggest treasure was just all of the memories of his entire life and livelihood.
Yeah.
And all of his presumably friends and family. And Omega just didn't. Let me think here. It wasn't really Omega who didn't seem to get it. It was more Tech and Echo who didn't particularly seem to get it, because I realize now that they really were. In a way, they do have a distinct culture and family and, society with all of their clone brothers, but they really don't in the same way as, any other person really would. So it's very difficult for them to understand that as a thing worth a treasure,
Yeah.
Their roots would be very shallow.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's interesting because at the moment they're trying to recover his treasured archive is when Omega takes off to find the treasure that she thinks will be the thing to redeem and save her family.
Right.
Because she still has Echo's words in her head, and she's a typical teenage girl trying to fix the problem as best she can. And so she's off trying to say, hey, this will help us. I'm going to go get it, and everything will be okay, and we can move on. And she's doing that at the same time that they're looking for that treasure archive. So
right. No, yeah, she seemed like when they first went in the container, and like, it's the concept of chests of treasure, because they were saying, like, look for something shiny and heavy, and like that kind of, like, she doesn't really get it at all, and the idea of commerce and like she's never had money, and like it's all new to her. And that was something I think that was interesting too, that once she was kind of on that path, it's like, no, we need this because you told me this is important. Like yesterday, or like earlier today. Why now is it not? So yeah, that you can kind of appreciate her confusion too. How about jumping over real quick just to Hunter and Wrecker? That was a fun matchup. I'm trying to think. I don't know how much the two of them were paired up, kind of in the first season, but that's the other thing that's fun about this, I think, is how they all have this different kind of chemistry and camaraderie with each other. Again, all being voiced by the same dude. So that's like, he must be really fun to be just, in a car ride with, was something I kept thinking about, but what did you guys think about their sort of the pursuit there? And was there anything in particular that you enjoyed about their attempts to get away?
Well, it always seems an unfair fight where they're using stun all the time, and the regs are using live blasters and such. And I was waiting to see what would happen when Wrecker picked up the cannon, because of course that's not for stunning. Right. And he used it to knock out the V-Wing, which would have killed whoever was in it. But then a lot of the other times he still aimed at the rocks nearby or the ground.
Right.
And used it more to intimidate rather than kill.
Right.
My theory is that Gonki
I kept looking for that.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, Ryan.
I was going to say, my theory is that Gonki decides whether or not it's a murder day or a not murder day at the beginning of the day, because clearly there are times when they use live rounds and there are times when they don't, and there isn't a consistency.
He just flips a coin.
Yeah, they flip Gonki over, and whether or not he can get up is how they find out.
Wrecker does. It's like that bottle challenge. Some of the kids are still doing. It's like if he lands on his feet.
Flip the Gonki.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Sorry.
Oh man. That'll be another thing that shows up on like on the whole like the Robot Chicken Star Wars or something. If they address that. Oh my goodness. That was so it was so funny that I had to give him credit for trying to just take the tanks in the first place, because you look at them and they hop in and I'm like, well, and they're both just so disappointed, like this one's dead. But I do wonder about the stun thing, because that came up first season. Do you guys think like it I don't know if there's, I don't like, the clones are basically commissioned from the start to go against this droid army, which, I mean, from just a family friendly storytelling standpoint, I always thought that it was a very helpful thing to basically have at least one whole side of the fight in this largely children's show, supposedly be inanimate toasters basically, but the I wonder, like, now that they're up exclusively almost against people, and very frequently guys that they would have potentially served alongside, that does seem to be a central thing. I don't think they've actually talked about it though. Have you heard them say, these are our brothers, let's use stun? I haven't.
They've never shown it on screen.
Yeah.
And I was waiting for the regs to say, why are they using stun this whole time?
Right. Yeah, like, is that worth thinking about? I do think it's interesting to kind of contemplate the rest of them, in their journey, because that's something. Maybe let me just throw maybe the end scene out here quick then while we're at it, because of course this interaction, we see Rampart get off his, I think he got off a shuttle, right? I don't remember if it was off a shuttle or not, but he's there. And Wilco's doing the dutiful soldier thing and telling his boss, who he unfortunately trusts, that surely enough, it's Clone Force 99. Rampart tells him that can't be possible because they were, of course, wiped out on Kamino, and he says he got visual confirmation. And then Rampart, of course, coolly just tells him we're going to change the report. And I was wondering, I kind of thought I knew where it was going, but that was like really, really cold. Just totally cold-blooded, like, sir, I will not falsify a report. And just him saying that, like, he didn't hesitate. Like, he really, not for long, he thought about it, and he's like, I've just been given a direct order to falsify a report, and I will not do that. And I mean, there's so much in play with this, right? There's the good soldiers follow orders mantra, but, like, as an Army vet myself, I just, sometimes people don't know that it is, you're required to disobey an illegal order. I don't know if that was in the clone training. It didn't apply to Order 66, apparently. But this does seem to be something that's going to be a theme. I think you see it in the trailer a little bit too, that we're going to start seeing at least some clones resist some of this stuff. So what was going through your guys' mind as that scene's unfolding? Did you see what was coming?
I felt like I could definitely see what was coming with that one, just the way he was standing, and knowing that when he mentioned, if any, who do you say, if who finds out about this?
Tarkin.
If Tarkin finds out about this, that'll be a problem.
I guess if Tarkin's
as soon as he
your
said
boss.
that, I'm like, oh, he is going to kill him. You just knew it was going to happen. But then again, to me, it answered a question of why we never hear anything about them later on. They're continually being covered up as being gone.
Yeah.
as far as the Empire's view is, or at least as long as he can stay alive to kill everybody off, who knows. But it lets you see also how much they think of the CTs as disposable. If they're just going to follow rules and follow orders and not think the way we want them to, then we don't need this one.
Do you guys know go ahead.
You described the scene as cold, and in my notes I had said it was chilling, so I definitely agree with you there. They didn't show Wilco's body on the ground. They showed it plummeting.
Yeah.
And it makes me
when
think
that when you fall in Star Wars, you survive.
I wasn't thinking of that, but fortunately now I have to, because that is what happens in Star Wars. It made me think, and I kind of hope that the trajectory of this series tells the story of what is going to happen to all the clones.
Yeah.
The Empire clearly does not value them. And seeming to see Wilco's body plummet like that, I think his fate is the first of many.
Well, and that was, I made a point, I think, at the end of that just brilliant 4-episode Clone Wars Season 7 arc at the end, when Vader goes over and you just have the helmets of the Ahsoka troopers, in the snow. And that last shot that's just so amazing as it's zooming in on the helmet, and you just see him reflected in the visor as he's walking away. And I think the comment I made at the time was I just thought that was so artistic and so genius. The idea of like all that the clone army was for was to basically get you a Vader, or get you just basically this end result of this kind of empire. And now they're just, whatever, we don't need them anymore. And now you're just seeing that unfold even more. And I did, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Cody's in the trailer, right? Commander Cody, I think, is coming. And we know Rex will be in here somewhere, so I'm wondering about Cody, if he's, because we don't see him like in Rebels or anything. We know Gregor, we know Rex, and who was the third one? Wolf. Yeah. But we haven't seen. I don't seen Wolf. I don't think in a while. So they brought Gregor in. I thought brilliantly last season. He's one of my favorites. He's so quirky. So. But yeah, what do you guys think? I mean, the only other that I can think of, the only other kind of older clone trooper was that brilliant cameo, right, in the Obi-Wan series with the the homeless vet kind of feel thing, 10 years now in the future, with actually having I'm terrible with names tonight. Oh my gosh. I just turned 39 the other day, and my friends are teasing me that, like, oh man, it's gonna go downhill from here.
That's clearly middle age.
Goodness gracious. But well,
no worries, you got a lot of years left. Don't worry.
That's good. That's good to know. But anyway, but yeah. So there's and you hear the rumors all the time. That we're actually gonna see like live action. Tim Morrison showing up in see, I got it. Showing up in Ahsoka as Rex and all that. And I totally think they should do that. But yeah, it brings up a question. I'm a roundabout way of asking this question. Do you guys know, like, is there anything canon? Because I can't think of it, about the age acceleration with the clones. Like, does it slow down? Like, you accelerate them so that they're at fighting age, but then from there they age at a regular rate? Or is it like, these guys are going to look like they're 60 when they're 12, like the Robin Williams Jack movie that came out in the 90s. You guys remember that? Like, so but I don't know if that's something that's actually been kind of hinted at or not. Like that aspect of it, like their actual, like the aging of them.
That's the one question I've always wondered.
I
was talking about this with my family after watching it all together. I saved it to watch with my family, and my dad and my sister, we were all talking about, like, they're going to have to come up with some sort of explanation why there are no clones in the original trilogy. Like, and they haven't really said anything about that. And what me and my sister thought of was, they all have inhibitor chips in them. What if there's a kill switch?
Oh,
so
yikes!
We were thinking about that, and we had a theory that maybe we're going to see a clone rebellion at some point. Maybe we're going to see a bunch of clones say, "We're done," and that's what happens. And that's the other reason why you have to take your inhibitor chip out at some point, or else either you were part of the Empire and eventually you got decommissioned.
And that would make sense because we know that the clones we do see in Rebels, which is right on the doorstep of original trilogy, and I think they did kind of canonize the whole Nick Santa that they called it? It was like a joke with Rex in Return of the Jedi as that guy with the white beard thing. But that's, if the inhibitor chip, is the kill switch too, is just, as long as it's in there, why it wouldn't have affected them. But well, it makes you wonder because Temuera Morrison's supposed to be, I think he's in his early 60s now, but there was the whole thing, like he's playing Boba Fett in Book of Boba Fett, and Boba's only supposed to be like in his like early to mid 40s. But I think he can pull it off because he doesn't exactly look his age, but it's at some point it makes you wonder, like, you slap a white beard on him, he'll be a great Rex. But I don't know, like, if you have Rex in just around, Rex and Gregor and those guys right around, just a few years before the rebellion, you're talking, what are we at? That's like 19, 3. Yeah, it's like, a little over 20 years since they were cloned, or 25 years. So it's like, if right now they're like, I don't know, 30s, mid 20s, there's something like that, are they just kind of aging to the point where like they're believably like in their 50s or early 60s or something a couple decades later? So that's my question. I don't know how detailed they'll get with it, but I haven't seen anything that really suggests that they're going to keep on that curve and look like they're 90 when they're whatever. So,
well, who is the one old timer clone in the Clone Wars?
99.
99?
99, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And he looked like he was 99 years old.
He did.
I almost wonder if he wasn't, an experiment to see what happens when you let the acceleration go.
Or they super accelerated
that.
And then and then the inhibitor chip might be preventing the acceleration or causing it, or who knows? Because then, there's all kinds of rational. Obviously, it didn't affect Rex and the guys too much because they took theirs out, and we saw them in Rebels and still strong.
Well, it's kind of funny. He was clone 99 and they're clone Force 99.
If it hasn't been said before, they're named after him.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, because he was he recognized as a defective clone?
Yeah.
And that's okay. Yeah, I haven't seen that episode in a couple of years. I'll have to go back and watch that. I forgot about that. Yeah,
But it's funny. Are they defective? Because Omega made it sound like they weren't defective. They were planned that way.
Right. They were enhanced for particular. Yeah.
Curious if we're gonna get any more info on why is Omega significant? Because she's not just significant because she has first generation DNA. Because if that was significant, just go and hire Boba Fett.
Right.
Because they do that in episode 5 of the original trilogy. Something different about Omega, and we don't know what it is.
It does seem that way. Because they say, in season 1, I just did a watch through again, and when they're first breaking that out, which is funny because Tex says something about, like he's talking about her story, and he's like, I thought it was obvious, and like Wrecker's like, why would that be obvious? like what, But I think Tex says something about, or maybe it's Nala Se and her conversations, with the Prime Minister, but somewhere in there's that like, the original donor's no longer available, right? Because Boba's out doing his thing, but Boba's awesome, but he's not like, he doesn't, you don't get the impression that he has these specific enhanced abilities or something like that. Plus he's always taking naps in the tank.
Yeah.
It's the flashback to, so
I thought that was because of the acid damage.
Yes, I think that was, but I am, of course, fully hoping and anticipating here this eventual Omega live action, right? Because I don't know. I feel like it makes sense, especially with her connection with Hera, her connection with Fennec Shand. Her, there's so many reasons to have her show up later, but it'll be neat because I don't know how to do it, right? Like I don't know what the right way to do it would be. It's curious.
And it'd have to be, like you said, not till Ahsoka later on in the timeline, much later, because she's not there in 4, 5, and 6. So it's like, where were they hiding during all of that?
Yeah.
More Purgle shenanigans.
Right. Well, and it makes you wonder.
It does make me think about the farm planet that a bunch of clones were hiding on in the now not canon Timothy Zahn books.
Oh, yeah.
See, and there was some speculation about, of course, because, we are having Thrawn, there's unknown regions, there's like, we're going to go out into different parts of space as it goes forward. But by the same token, like you guys were saying, just to circle back, like there's this tension, like is it really going to be their thing for them to go to a completely uncharted area of space and lay low? Like, that's not going to make Echo happy. Like, are they going to split up? Is Echo going to die? Like, it's just, there's all kinds of interesting questions.
Watch for any of them getting more character development. That's the first sign that they'll die.
The second sign is Echo's like, your hunter's like, I just want to get a white picket fence. Like, no. So, like, no. That was the only, I didn't actually think they were going to kill off Mando in like the 3rd episode of the show or 4th episode of the show in season 1. However, they did have me on the edge of my seat there with the whole, like, you could settle down here, and she's taking his helmet, and I'm like, and like his voice gives a little bit, and I'm like, oh man. That is, by the way, my secret hope is that it's probably a little bit too much, but that somehow Mandalorian ends with Din actually going back to the sanctuary planet to settle down. So
all we got to see is the ship landing and stepping out. That's how it ends.
Yep. There it is. Oh my.
I have a question for you about Rampart.
Yeah.
So did Rampart think the Bad Batch got wiped out on Kamino, or was he knew they were still alive, but he was just officially denying that they were still alive?
What do you guys think? Because I have a theory here. Yeah.
Crosshair.
If Crosshair told him they were dead.
Have told him.
Now it's like, well, what's going to happen to him? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't know for sure yet that we don't know what happened to Crosshair. Like, did he just go right back to Rampart, or is he? But yeah, he's on the Empire side. And I don't feel like Rampart, I don't think he would just rush to believe Crosshair. He was totally okay with Crosshair dying there too. So I don't know.
When Wilco said, what did you say? Clone Force 99. Rampart did not press him on that. Like, are you sure? How can that be? He seemed to kind of take it in stride, but say your report's wrong.
Almost,
he wasn't surprised.
Almost like do you want to try that again and say the right sort of official thing? Like, okay, like, I'll just get another one of you. Like, there's literally a guy over there that looks just like you. Like, that is that disposable attitude is just, That's a good question. I don't know. I fully expect that we're going to see the demise, like, before the Bad Batch story is done, however many seasons they do. I think we're going to see the demise of Rampart, because I feel like he's in pretty deep, and I don't expect him, staying in Tarkin's good graces for another 18 years. So, whatever it is.
I'm worried we're going to see the answer to the question of why there aren't any clones in the original trilogy through the Bad Batch, because it certainly would be an appropriate way to tell that story with, sort of the peak of the cloning program as the focal point of the whole story, watching or experiencing the erasing of everything that has to do with them.
My fear,
gone.
But and I think it'll be like I've mentioned many times on the show before, that sometimes when there's that challenge in some Star Wars where like the stakes aren't actually, high, like where it's like they build it up, but then like everybody's okay and there's not really any sacrifice. And I wonder just to clarify, as I always do when I say something along these lines, I don't want any of these characters to die. but I kind of feel, my gut is telling me that, you know, before their story is over, my guess would be that we will see basically all of the sort of grown-up Batchers, you know, somehow go out in some blaze of glory. Or like, I think they will not be around for many or more years, but I think Omega's their legacy. I think this, you know, that's what I think. I think that it makes sense that like she's the one who carries on their story in a sense, and they sort of simplify things too that way. You know, I think it's practical because you can have, you know, I totally think you could have Michelle. Is it Ang or Ang? I don't know how she pronounced it. I want to say it's Ang. It's A-N-G, but who does the voice for Omega? Because she's actually like 40 years old. Mm-hmm. And she sounds like she's, you know, 12 or 13, but I totally could see, I don't know if they would have her do it, but, you know, I just feel like it's more likely that you'd see like an Omega live action than these guys live action. Because they're so great. And D. Bradley Baker, like, you know, he, with the voice and everything, I don't know that you would really, I don't know how well it would work, you know, to be like, oh, look, here's the Bad Batch live action 10 years later. Like, you know, Hunter's got like a gut. You know, like Cut did when they went like Cut Loquain with his face. Like, I just love it. Like, he's got the dad bod. You know, he's starting to lose his hair. It was like so genius. What happens when a clone trooper settles down?
Get some bifocals on tech.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's just like, hang on, let me. You know, it looks like it looks like Steven Tyler on American Idol, you know, like this legendary rocker, but he's sitting there like looking at his cards. It's just so. Oh, well, I don't know. Is there anything else from either of these episodes? You know, we're just starting out here. I've got some announcements I'll share at the end about kind of how we're going to go about the future shows. But anything else you guys want to share or point out before we start to bring it home here?
Well, I don't know why it stood out to me, but watching Omega and Echo bringing up the line to bring Tech up on top, I found it so fascinating and amazing, the detail and quality of watching how they had Echo using his prosthetic arm.
Yeah.
It was just, I was like, wow,
so cool.
Yeah, you would have to do something different like that. And I thought that was awesome. Good
easy
tribute to anyone who has had
Yeah.
to suffer through a loss of a limb.
Yeah. Chris, Ryan, how about you guys?
I've exhausted all of my theories.
And it's just the appetizer here too. So I think it's gonna open up more as we move forward. But
for sure.
Well, that is it from us for tonight. Before we do the closeout announcements here, I just want to share. I'm just trying to bring up my spreadsheet here. It looks like again, just to reiterate, and those who listened to the last show that we did on New Year's resolutions for Star Wars characters, basically the breakdown now, and dates could be subject to change, obviously, because as of now, it looks like we have the release dates pretty set for the Bad Batch episodes. Some are paired up, most of them are single, coming out each week. But basically, our plan here, starting when Mandalorian Season 3 comes out, starting on March 1st, is that we're going to kind of segue, since Mandalorian, you know, not to sort of sell Bad Batch short, but Mandalorian does seem to really be, you know, the kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's the workhorse, the poster child. Yeah, I mean, it was what Disney Plus launched with, you know, and of course all the ratings and everything. I think it seems to be the most popular series in general for a lot of folks. So we are going to kind of go on a little hiatus about a little over halfway through the Bad Batch's 16 episode season here for season 2, to shift over to focusing on Mandalorian for that run, basically those 8 episodes, and then just a couple weeks, looks like that'll take us through like kind of the more or less the end of April, or close to the end of April, and then we'll jump back in April and through most of May to kind of unpack the remaining episodes of Bad Batch season 2. So basically we're going to be weekly here for almost 6 months, which is pretty cool. A lot of Star Wars content to go through. So you know, Bad Batch for a little over half the season, then we'll jump to Mando, and then we'll come back and finish Bad Batch. So that's kind of the road forward. So just to bring it home here. Let us know, please, anyone, if let us know what you thought of these 2 episodes. Anything else that you want to kind of share. If you want to make fun of me for forgetting like 50 different place and character names on a Star Wars show, go for it. It's fun. I'll do better next time. But you can email us any feedback whatsoever at starwars@sqpn.com, or visit our Discord community over at sqpn.com/discord. Also, as I mentioned before, Facebook, Twitter, you can find us over there. Just look up SQPN. We want to, at this moment, as always, as we get close to the end of the program, thank our patrons. We can't do this without you guys, and it really helps us get the show out there to more and more people. So Monica K, Samuel M, Susan B, Gregory N, and Jane A. Your generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Star Wars and all the shows at StarQuest. So you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give, and we hope that you do that.
This StarQuest show is brought to you by Tim Shevlin's Personal Fitness Training for Catholics, providing spiritual and physical wellness through personalized nutrition, workout and prayer programs, and daily accountability check-ins. Learn more by visiting fitcatholics.com.
Last but not least, make sure you follow our YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed to that, please do that. Also, podcasts over Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Anywhere you get podcasts, you can get the show and share with a friend. So while you're sharing with a friend, share with them as well the link to our merch store. So sqpn.com/merch. That is a great place for you to go. If you missed getting someone a nice Christmas gift, you forgot Aunt Millie or somebody, and you're like, oh, how could I do that? I don't know if Aunt Millie loves Star Wars, and I don't know if you have an Aunt Millie, but if you do, and she does, that's a good place to check out. So we will be back next week to unpack Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 3, so mark your calendars because you'll definitely not want to miss it. So until next time, Kathryn Laffrey, thank you so much for joining us to share the secrets of Star Wars.
Thank you. It was fun.
Ryan Nafziger, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
And last but not least, Chris Hagen, thank you for your inaugural joining us here as well. So we'll see you again in the future.
Great fun.
Absolutely. And I'm Mike Creavey. Thank you very much for listening to the Secrets of Star Wars on StarQuest.